what if, the traditional path to success, what if it wasn't the only way?
Mm.
Today, we're doing a really fascinating deep dive into the story of Samir. He's a young guy, a visionary, who co-founded a billion-dollar AI company. It's called Vice. And get this, he did it without a college degree.
Wow. Yeah.
So if you're looking for maybe a shortcut to understanding entrepreneurship or building a business now, especially with AI, maybe carving your own path, well, you're definitely in the right place.
And we've got a really, really compelling source for this. It's a recent YouTube interview with Samir himself on the Silicon Valley Girl channel. Really insightful.
Yeah, gives you that firsthand account, doesn't it?
Exactly. His journey, his thinking, it's all there.
Okay, so our mission here isn't just to tell the story. We want to really dig in, extract the core insights from Samir's, well, unconventional rise.
Right. Understand the key moments, those mindset shifts.
Then the strategies, the things that actually propelled him to build this thing, especially now, with AI changing everything so fast. So let's dive in. Samir's story, it starts in Cleveland, a traditional Indian immigrant family. What were the expectations like for him early on?
Well, like in many immigrant families, right, the focus was really on stability.
Yeah.
Established careers.
Medicine, engineering, that kind of thing.
Exactly. That's what his parents, naturally hoped for him, a secure future along those lines.
But his own interests, they seemed different right from the start. He talked about being fascinated with just building things.
Yeah, he does. He mentions Lego, actually.
Yeah.
How he was just completely captivated by building sets when he was a kid.
Uh,
And that seems really fundamental, that drive to create, to construct.
And it wasn't just toys. Apparently, really early on, like 7th or 8th grade, he started questioning college, asking if it was actually necessary for being an entrepreneur.
Which is pretty remarkable at that age, right?
Definitely a departure.
Yeah.
What do you think sparks that so young?
It seems like he kind of intuitively got that maybe entrepreneurship needed a different skill set, a different network, perhaps, than what college offered. He even started thinking about other ways to connect with people, like sending cold emails, seeing that as maybe an alternative to the university network.
Interesting. And there's that story about school, right? Not getting honors and how disappointed his parents were.
Yeah, that really highlights the tension, doesn't it?
Totally. Their traditional expectations versus his different approach.
It really underscores how, for his parents, academic achievement equaled future success, which is completely understandable.
Of course.
But for Samir, that kind of validation just it wasn't the main thing.
Yeah.
His focus was already shifting towards, building real things, real businesses.
Okay, let's fast forward a bit. A really crucial point. Meeting his co-founder, Runik. This happened at a summer program at Northwestern.
Yeah, and he started going to those really young, actually, like 5th or 6th grade onwards.
Wow, that experience itself must have been quite formative.
He says it was huge for learning independence. Living in a dorm, managing his own time.
Right, even though he didn't end up going the college route formally.
Exactly. Those early experiences probably really built up his self-reliance, made him more willing to take those unconventional paths later.
So it's during one of those summers he connects with Runik. What was the idea that sparked things between them?
They basically bonded over this idea of building mobile apps for small businesses.
Oh, okay.
And the timing was perfect, apparently. Apple had just released Swift, its programming language, making app development, a lot more accessible.
Right, so they saw an opportunity there.
A big one. A market that was just kind of starting to emerge.
And it's interesting how different their backgrounds were. Samir already heading towards entrepreneurship, Runik more academic.
Yeah, Runik was apparently taking extra math courses, really focused on academics. Samir kind of pulled him in another direction.
He says he took him to the dark side, right?
Yeah, he jokes about that, encouraging him to see building a business as, a really compelling alternative. He talks about sort of sculpting Runik into the partner he needed.
Shows his vision was already pretty strong.
Definitely persuasive.
And they actually launched their first business at 14.
Incredible, right? 14.
But even that, it wasn't quite the proof point his parents needed, was it? It didn't immediately ease their worries about him skipping college.
No, not really. I mean, starting a business that young is impressive, sure. But his parents likely still saw that degree as, the fundamental thing for security, for long-term success.
Yeah.
Their validation came later, and maybe through something that felt a bit more official.
You mean the Lightseed Ventures Fellowship Program?
Exactly. Why did that seem to land differently with them? What made it feel more legitimate?
Well, it seems like because his co-founder was connected to UPenn, the University of Pennsylvania, and just the term fellowship.
Ah, okay. Sounds formal.
Right. It probably sounded like a recognized achievement, almost like a stand-in for those academic credentials they valued.
Interesting. Which really highlights a big hurdle, doesn't it?
Yeah.
For anyone bypassing traditional education, how do you build credibility?
Totally. So beyond his parents, how did Samir actually gain trust, gain respect in the business world without the usual qualifications?
He really hammers this point.
Mm-hmm.
You need a deep, deep understanding of your industry, like really nuanced.
Go beyond the surface level.
Exactly. When you can talk intelligently, offer insights that others don't have, those traditional credentials start to matter less.
And he also had this other strategy, didn't he? Building credibility by association.
Yes. Can you unpack that a bit? How did he actually do that?
Well, it was about deliberately surrounding himself with people who did have the experience, the credentials.
Okay, so like,
Seasoned investors, right. People with 20-plus years in finance. Team members with deep industry experience.
I see. So their reputation kind of rubs off, instills confidence in his venture.
Exactly. Smart move.
Very strategic.
Okay, let's pivot a bit. Let's talk money. Building a company without that traditional career safety net. He mentions an immigrant mindset about capital early on. What did that look like?
Yeah, that mindset oft means being really frugal, right? Risk averse, especially early on. So for Samir, that meant bootstrapping, funding the company themselves through revenue, first from app development, then later doing consulting for financial institutions, high-value stuff.
Making money to fuel the business, self-sufficiency.
That was key in those early days. Absolutely.
But he also realized later that maybe being too conservative held them back a bit.
Yeah, exactly. He kind of reflected that maybe some strategic spending on talent, maybe marketing could have sped things up.
Interesting learning curve.
For sure, that ingrained frugality might have made them a little too cautious about investing for growth at times.
And then, of course, they raised significant funding, and the pendulum swings the other way. He said they started thinking money was free.
Oof, yeah. That sounds dangerous.
Right. A common trap for startups, maybe. What happened then?
Well, predictably, it led to a period of overspending. They certainly had all these resources after being so lean, and they had to learn to kind of pull back, recalibrate, find a more sustainable way to manage the money.
So, having been through both extremes, what's his approach now? How does he think about spending, allocating resources?
His main focus now is really on hiring the right people. He calls them barrels.
Barrels. Okay, tell me more about that.
Yeah, it's people who are super capable, right, who could take a project from start to finish pretty independently, just with high-level direction.
Got it. Less hand-holding needed.
Exactly. And then aligning incentives properly and making really targeted investments in the key areas that are going to have the biggest impact long-term.
This idea of barrels versus ammunition in hiring, that's pretty insightful. Can you break down that analogy?
Yeah, so barrels are those self-starters, right? They take a vague problem, a big goal, and they just run with it. They figure it out, they execute.
Okay, and ammunition?
Ammunition is more like people who need really specific tasks, detailed instructions. They execute the plan, but they don't necessarily create it. And he argues, for real growth, for innovation, you absolutely need to prioritize finding and empowering those barrel types.
So when he's interviewing, how does he spot them? What does he look for? What kinds of questions?
He looks for real ownership in past projects. Like, can they talk about something they truly owned end to end? And do they understand how all the different pieces of a business fit together? Not just their little silo? Can they think strategically, but also understand the nitty-gritty details?
Right, and how they handle challenges, initiatives.
Exactly. That track record of taking ownership and driving things forward.
Now, we can't talk about business today without talking about AI. It's changing everything.
Right.
How has AI influenced Samir's approach to building his team, scaling Vice?
Well, it's really reinforced his focus on hiring those barrels, because those are the people who can actually leverage AI effectively.
Ah, okay. Amplify their impact.
Precisely. He sees a future with leaner, super efficient teams where AI handles a lot of the routine stuff, freeing up the talented humans for the high-level strategic work.
He gave that example, didn't he? Their client service team got much smaller, but handled more work.
Yeah, quite a dramatic example. And the key was their approach to automation.
How so?
They didn't just react to requests, they actually analyzed all the underlying tasks involved in client service. Everything.
Who broke it down?
Yeah. And then they systematically used AI to automate as many of those pieces as possible. They basically designed the whole operation for scalability through automation right from the start.
Smart. Okay, let's get into the product itself. Vice. What's the core problem they're trying to solve in finance? What was the gap?
The big challenge is that financial advisors, well, they struggle to give truly personalized investment advice to lots and lots of clients. It's just hard to scale that deep personalization manually.
Right. Makes sense. Time consuming.
Very. So how does Vise use AI to fix that?
Well, Vise basically combines sophisticated AI with investment management know-how. The AI crunches tons of data to really understand each client, their situation, goals, risk tolerance, all of it.
Okay. Gets that deep picture.
Exactly. And then it automates the heavy lifting of portfolio management, things like asset allocation.
Deciding what to invest in.
Right. Executing trades, rebalancing the portfolio periodically.
Keeping it aligned.
And even tax stuff like tax loss harvesting to minimize taxes on investments.
So the AI is really empowering the human advisor, not replacing them. The relationship is still key.
Absolutely. Samir is really clear on that. He believes that trust, that understanding between the advisor and client, that's irreplaceable. AI just takes away the time-sucking analytical and operational stuff so advisors can focus on the relationship, the strategic advice.
Makes sense. Now, I heard the idea for Vise wasn't actually his first AI venture. He was working on something else initially.
Yes. Interestingly, his first dip into AI was trying to automate app development itself.
Building on their earlier business.
Exactly. Using AI to streamline the kind of work they were already doing.
So what made them pivot? From automated app building to finance. What sparked Vise?
It seems like it came from their consulting work. They were working with big financial institutions, seeing the problems firsthand.
Getting those inside insights.
Yeah. And apparently, some key feedback, notably from Jamie Dimon,
Oh, wow.
highlighted this huge opportunity to give independent financial advisors better tools. That helped them see a more pressing need, a bigger market.
Fascinating. So learning all this finance stuff, the investment world, without a formal background, that must have been a steep climb. How did he do it?
He talks about a mix of things, lots of reading, obviously, watching YouTube videos, using online resources.
Look at his self-study routes.
But he says the most effective thing, by far, was talking to people, actually engaging with people in the industry, shadowing them.
That hands-on, real-world learning.
Yeah, that seemed to be the key for him.
Makes sense. Now, building a company like this, it's never smooth sailing, is it? He admits he wanted to quit multiple times.
Yeah, he said 15 times at least.
Wow. So what kept him going? What fueled that resilience through the tough patches?
He points back to that long-term vision, his North Star, he calls it.
Right.
This idea of building something transformative, a generational company that could actually democratize wealth, help more people reach their financial goals.
That strong sense of purpose.
Yeah, that seems to be what anchored him during the hard times.
And that North Star idea, it connects to his advice for young people today, right? People may be questioning the college path.
Definitely. What does he suggest as an alternative?
Well, he expresses this view that maybe college is losing a bit of its value proposition, that it teaches what to think, maybe not always how to think critically.
Interesting take.
And his alternative path is basically find someone really impressive in a field you care about.
Okay.
And then hustle. Find a way to learn directly from them, add value, work hard, shadow them, basically.
So practical experience, mentorship over the formal degree, at least for certain paths.
That seems to be his perspective, yeah. But he stresses you need that clear, long-term vision for yourself. You need to really know your strengths.
Right. And have the drive to actively seek out those learning opportunities, build those connections.
Exactly. Self-awareness, proactivity.
Yeah.
Those are crucial on that kind of path.
So looking ahead now, what's Samir's current North Star? What's the big vision for Vise?
The ambition now is huge. He wants Vise to become the world's largest asset management platform.
Wow.
Like the core technology infrastructure delivering super personalized portfolios across all asset classes.
So fundamentally changing the investment industry.
Yeah, transforming it into more of a platform business that really empowers people.
He also shared some thoughts on investing in general, didn't he? Referencing a TED Talk.
Yeah, the Where Are the Missing Billionaires talk, which basically highlights how, we humans aren't always great at making financial decisions. We get in our own way.
Yeah. Story of my life. So what's his advice for the average person investing?
For most people, he recommends keeping it simple and disciplined. Invest in broad index funds. like an S&P 500 tracker or maybe a personalized index.
Diversify, keep costs low.
Exactly. Rebalance regularly, pay attention to taxes and fees, and just contribute consistently over the long haul.
So basically resist the urge to chase the next hot stock or trend.
Pretty much. Avoid that short-term noise.
Yeah.
He does say, maybe if you have some expertise, you could take small, informed, active bets within your portfolio.
Like his example of slightly overweighting space investments?
Right, based on a specific belief or insight. But he stresses that should be a tiny part of your overall strategy. Any sort of gambling money should be very small.
Got it. Sensible advice. And what about Vice's future clients? Are they sticking with advisors or branching out?
For now, the focus is definitely still empowering financial advisors. That's the core.
Okay.
But the long-term vision, that definitely includes potentially serving individual consumers directly and institutions too, building out a really comprehensive platform.
It must be quite something for his parents now, seeing his success after their initial worries. What's their take on things these days?
Yeah, he says they're incredibly proud now. And they're starting to really see how the landscape is changing,
Yeah.
that these alternative paths are valid.
They see the shift.
They do. And they also seem to believe that with AI making information so accessible, the really important skills are shifting too, towards learning how to learn, problem solving, communication.
That makes sense. He mentioned Palantir hiring straight from high school.
Yeah, he points to examples like that as evidence that companies are starting to look beyond just the degree.
Interesting times. Okay, last question. What's Samir's single most important piece of advice for someone trying to navigate this AI-driven world, trying to stay ahead?
His core advice is, figure out your superpower, your unique strength, your core competency.
Know yourself.
Yes, and get honest feedback from people you trust to really nail that down. And then focus relentlessly on becoming the best in the world at that one thing.
Don't try to fix all your weaknesses.
Exactly. Double down on your strength. He talks about the power of compounding in your career, how deep mastery often takes, 5 or 10 years of focused effort.
Powerful advice. So wrapping this up, Samir's journey, it's just a really powerful illustration, isn't it? That big success is possible outside that traditional college box.
Absolutely. It really highlights having that clear vision, committing to learning constantly, building strong relationships strategically.
And embracing technology like AI, yeah. Not being afraid of it, but leveraging it.
Definitely. And it really makes you think, doesn't it, about your own strengths, your own superpowers, your long-term goals.
Yeah. How can you maybe apply some of these lessons from Samir's path to your own life, your own career, whatever your background?
Food for thought.
And that leads us to maybe a final thought for you, the listener, to chew on. With AI accelerating, perspectives on education shifting, what other big assumptions we have about careers, about success, might get challenged next?
Are we going to see more and more people forging these really unique, impactful paths? It feels like we might be.
It's a fascinating question. Maybe check out the Where Are the Missing Billionaires TED Talk we mentioned, or look into which companies are really shifting their hiring focus away from degrees. Lots to think about.
Definitely.
Well, thank you for joining us for this deep dive. It's been really insightful.
Yeah, great conversation.